I think in New York, we've got a bunch of high school kids, maybe even a 12-year-old that's in the audience. So hello to all you people. And Kathy sent me a note because the reason I wanted to play the song is if you watch the movie Pitch Perfect, there's a scene in it where there's a riff off. And in the riff off, there's a whole part, this guy Bumper, who's one of the characters, sings this whole aspect about, let's talk about sex, baby. And I was like, there's a bunch of 12-year-olds and high schoolers. And I realized like that song was playing in my head this week on something. And I was like, wait a second, it's because I showed my 12-year-old daughter, Olivia, the movie Pitch Perfect for the first time. And she loved it, of course. Then I was like, wait a second, that song was in the movie. And I didn't realize that till I started thinking about the song. And the reason I wanted to play the song, and it didn't play out quite as I thought, was the weather is being talked about a lot, right? I think that in the Northeast, if you're in the Northeast, it's like 100 degrees today in Boston. In New York, it's pretty hot. So like just being in the hotel in Boston, everyone's talking about the weather, right? Make sure you get somewhere before it's too hot. How are you going to survive the weather? And the thought I had was the notion of, how we talk about the weather because we have nothing else to really talk about substantial. And I was thinking, God, why can't we talk about leadership? Why can't we talk about like geeking out on like the human mind and human judgment and leadership? And why is it like, we talk about the weather? And so then I was like, what would be the equivalent of, I want to talk about leadership? So of course I thought, let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. And so that was the way the song entered my head. And I was like, why am I singing that song in my head? But my point being to be that fun, playful on a topic that's interesting. And not that weather isn't always interesting, but let's be honest, it's the weather. And when you see everybody around talking about the weather, I had this thought of, I wish people want to talk about something much more substantial. So see a lot of pieces, my notes are everywhere. So I'm like looking at different things. Yes, I wrote, talk about the weather. Let's talk about sex, baby, human judgment and leadership. And so I'm going to launch into this class. The title of the class, I think, is very interesting. And actually, before I go into the title, you can see in this camera, I'm going to show you this little gadget I bought. It's a little gadget that says no. And Laura has the other one, which says yes. And there's a reason I gave her the yes button, because she has to earn the no button. And this is very counterintuitive. We are all very bad at saying no. Now, we think maybe we're bad, but I would say you're even far worse at saying no than you can even imagine. The reason is the right way, and this is one of the most counterintuitive leadership lessons, to learn how to say no is first learn how to say yes. And you need to learn how to say yes with full energy, full engagement, consistently. Do it when it's hardest. And once you master that skill, Laura will be given this button, so then she can actually focus on saying no. Most of us don't know how to say yes fully and don't know how to do it under constraint, repeatedly, consistently, and actually, as a result of it, overuse the no button the wrong way. So very counterintuitive that you have to spend energy. You have to spend human energy, you have to spend time, energy, investment, and do it consistently before you get to a place where you actually learn how to say no. So with that, I am going to share the screen for the class. All right, so the title of the class for today, and this is Leadership in Practice 284. So this is the 284th episode, and this is a live in practice class. This is not about, if you think about a college professor or a high school professor, a college professor probably better, and they have to give a lecture. And when they have to give a lecture, they focus a lot on, the curriculum, and they come up with a 10-week syllabus or whatnot, and they have to usually do then so many lectures. They're kind of lazier than you think, even though they work hard. So they come up with maybe like 5 lectures, guest speakers, some workshops, tests, and whatnot, and they repeat the stuff year over year. 284, there's not one repeated lecture. There's not one repeated topic. This is in practice information occurring live in real time that we are sharing consistently. And so This has been 5+ years of doing this, and I'm hoping a couple things. Sorry, I'm just fixing a couple things on my screen. I am hoping, kind of like the weather, this is a lot more interesting. I'm hoping to get you to think about your own life, think about what you want to get done, think about what you want to do, what you don't want to do. Think about just human performance, not in a theoretical level, but for your own self. Like, how do I kick ass? Like, that's right, the word ass. How do I kick ass? And how do I do it consistently, not once, not when I'm motivated, but when stress tested in the worst way? How do I not only recover from that challenge, but fight, kick ass every day and let it compound and build up? And that notion, that's what I want to talk about. And I'm hoping the class gives you some interesting things, counterintuitive things, sort of things coming from the field and practice that bucks theory that you get to consider and then think of how to apply it to real things happening right now. And I would love to spend the bulk of the class then moving towards that. Like not theoretical. It's like, I read about this and I read about that. No, what's happening in your life that you can better using your own mind? So I'm going to share a lot of stuff. Feel free to use chat aggressively. It's a great way to have ADD and, encourage it, like just talk conversations. But then I think even this group, I gave copies of the slide. We can talk afterwards, talk at lunch. Same thing will happen in New York. And, you've got a battle now with a bunch of high schoolers too, who literally are smart as hell, but also dumb as hell. So combined with both and arrogant and humble and the whole 9 yards. So good luck on that. But all right, we'll go into this. So this was me this morning, early morning. I'm in Boston. We have a Boston office here. I was in the Equinox gym in the morning, still jet lagged from traveling to Japan and Korea. So laying out all my notes, trying to consolidate. And then the process of doing it, and I've been like, and Weiwei and the team here has been watching me try to learn how to code with AI while also doing a bunch of other things and putting this presentation together. And then while walking with my bag to the office, like I'm like on my phone every now and then stopping and writing this. So this was literally what I wrote, like walking over, which is my notes walking to the Next Gen Boston office, that you cannot check your judgment. The notion of deferring to experts, to others, whether it's a senior person, whether it's Reed because he's the mentor for Teak, or whether it's a parent, or whether it's an uncle, or whether it is a doctor, lawyer, accountant, consultant, any advisor, and of course now an expert is also AI. The expert is also the internet. Expert is the group sum total of what is most popular, most agreed upon, most liked, most forwarded, and most read. This notion of deferring and checking your judgment and giving your judgment to others. It is something that you cannot do. And it's not something that you won't do. We all will. There is so much that I was thinking just even here, after I kind of came into the office, this notion of distraction, this notion of if there is an arm wrestling match and someone is trying to commandeer and take over your brain, someone is trying to say, let me run that brain. Let me be the agent for your life, your brain, your thoughts. Of course, it should be you, but it is way harder than you think because everything in the world, it's like the default is distraction. Think of how easy, and I know there's an author, I think Carmela mentioned Nir Eyal. He spoke in one of our earlier community online academies, wrote a book called Distractible or Indistractable. I say the reality is distraction is the norm. So how hard you have to work, that it's almost like going to I'm trying to think, if you go to Times Square, or if you go to Times Square in New York, and you walk to Times Square starving, right? I don't know if you ever so hungry, you forgot to eat breakfast, lunch, and now it's dinner and you're so hungry, you need to eat anything. You walk to Times Square and you're like, I need to eat healthy. That's impossible. Now, technically it probably is possible, but it's near impossible because every single thing is junk food. Just loads and loads of junk food, and you walk by free samples or whatnot. And I think of this notion of distraction is that's the new norm. But in that same way, kind of your judgment, what are you thinking? think about how much time you spend actually figuring out what you're thinking. And you think about how many hijacking attempts there are in that process, including you asking someone to hijack. Let me ask the expert, whoever that expert might be. And so there's a notion, and Megan talked on this in her leadership and practice class, that you cannot check your judgment. Expert bias, deferring to an expert to figure something out, is such a lethal, and it's so lethal now more than ever before. And then the flip side, of course, is if we check our judgment, what we do is we wait for some external factor to inspire or to trigger me to want to do something, right? Maybe if I just wait, something will happen. Maybe something will come in my email or phone or news article, or maybe a client will just call me. Or, if you're in high school and you're thinking, what do I do for the summer? If I just wait, maybe someone will just give me an internship, or somehow there's just a need that will go, and you'll be walking in your building and someone will be like, oh my God, we need a young high school kid to do this really cool project. And are you free? Not going to happen. And if it does, that's great, but it's so few. Why wouldn't you want to have the skills to go make shit happen? And so this notion that to be able to do that, it's less the body, it's the mind that's untrained. And your mind now, more than ever before, can solve anything. So this notion of full agency, I'll talk about this more, is actually very foreign to us. Having full agency and actually even recognizing when you're giving up your agency, your choice, is a very foreign concept of awareness. We're so unaware of it. It's almost like going in a place where wait, what did they say? Speaking different language. And the proof points of the work we've been doing is kind of two huge things. Many, many proof points, smaller proof points, but I love these two big ones. And I put here Greg with a mobile app and what he did, and spending time with the team here. And I put Wei Ritchie, who also we're not very experienced engineers. We had at our peak 250 engineers. We're talking from the best and brightest out of MIT, Cornell, Carnegie Mellon, Georgia Tech, Princeton. And they tried repeatedly to build a successful e-commerce mobile app. And here, before the AI technology got really strong in coding, and now anyone can build an app and release it. You just can't get downloads, right? You can release a ton of junk. You can produce a ton of crappy content. We don't need more crappy content. So the proof is in, well, how successful is it? Greg drives, the most unlikely individual, learning to code with AI when it was not even close to the capability today. Wei was not a coder either. Jumped in to learn. Richie was one of our most junior engineers. I think has risen to be one of our most seasoned now and experienced, all through this effort. And speaking with them, and they're trying to teach me how to use coding for AI and how to use AI even as an agent and whatnot for co-work, and going through some of this even this week. And the success of the mobile app, they launched an app. I think it was in 4 months. They launched an app. I can't remember what it was. Was it they, I think, built and launched it in 4 months, and then in 10 months had 1 million downloads. Yeah. This is an app with over 5,000 4.9 plus star reviews. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable. An individual, and Greg was stuck in his career, and I think in many degrees, Wei and Richie were stuck. They trained in parallel leadership and human judgment skills, then taught themselves the technicality of coding with AI. And when you look and break apart what made them succeed, what made them win, they attribute this thing called 113, which is a process of, on a routine basis, looking out 1 week, 1 month, 3 months, which is what the 113 stands for. This human process of having no distractions, no computers, and using their minds and planning and strategizing every week, multiple times, making at least 2 releases of the mobile app every single week. 3 of them, not really big time engineers. And the success, unbelievable, while we were dealing with a horrible legal case fighting the US government. So Megan and I, just 6 weeks ago, which is not very long ago, fought for 3 years and beat the US government. And this is at the federal level. They are the potential, the power to be the biggest bullies you can imagine. And in every aspect, nobody wins. It's like there were little clauses in what they were accusing us of, including this term called gratuity, which is like a tip. In the history of the country, there's not one case where they've won on a gratuity charge by the federal government, not one in history until us. And the proof of how we won, I'll share more of this too. And even for what Greg Way Ritchie did, the real challenge, and this is kind of the proof of the win is awesome. And then if you're interested, you want to hear from people who have been through battle, been through difficulty, and then what made you win? What was the place? Where should I focus? How should I allocate my time and energy? And so to understand what matters, you have to understand where the real challenge is. And the real challenge is hidden. It's hidden in the sense of we tend to think about the big things. We think about the big stories, the big things that we repeat and people glom onto. What we don't spend time thinking about, and this is the harder challenge, the everyday struggle, the everyday fight. Even as you guys did the 113 every single day, tell me how you navigated through being stuck every week, every day you did 113. Is this worth it? Is this, we're spinning in circles. Nothing's going to make a difference. Everything seems to break. How do you absorb everyday challenge and then not give up? But then not giving up is kind of like too big a thing that people focus on. Well, I didn't give up. Yeah, but you didn't really try. See, that's also the equivalent of giving up. Really trying is being fully engaged, full agency with full belief that I am going to give it my all. I'm going to make this work. I don't know how that advanced, but
dogs didn't have a question.
Oh, dog has a question. Oh, Doug, go ahead. There's a question from Doug.
He raised the hand.
So somebody raised their hand. We can, or maybe that was an accident. Yeah. Or how about this, Doug? Put it in the chat for now, and then we'll come back to this. But so let me fly through. So like I'm going to have so much to share. So if I overwhelm you guys, this is I totally blame Megan because she's that we end up having sparring and fighting, and she's like, "Oh my God, it's too much. You're trying to jam 10 lip classes into one, whatnot." But hopefully, but we have bright high school students, so 10:37. This is this morning. I mean, like, what is it, like 23 minutes ago? My wife is Ella. She wrote, sometimes I have these freak out moments where I imagine the alternative reality of a guilty verdict. Does this happen to you? Post-verdict, that is. And so this is the kind of like my real-time response while getting ready for the lip class, trying to make slides. Not really. It wasn't an accidental win. We worked and earned the win. Teaching, sharing, and unpacking the details of what it was helps a lot. I had this conversation with the church folks yesterday. They asked me, what role did God play? And I'll come back and mention the church, but faith, I told them, plays a critical role. But faith is needed to then go and do the hard work. It's the everyday struggle, everyday fight that requires faith to start, to not stop, to fully engage daily. And do this enough times, doing the hard work becomes part of your automatic. A lot of people with faith, God will save me, us, and don't do the hard work are lazy. A lot of people constantly doing hard work, but no direction, no belief, so end up stuck. So in this trip to Boston while Megan's away, I wanted to come and just say thanks to two groups that were huge supporter groups of ours. One is the Chinese community, and it's a large community, so we had a huge dinner. And of course, I had Chinese dinners 2 days in a row, but not the healthiest of foods. But so it was interesting because there's a guy I met years ago. His name is Keith Abel. He was in Fox News. If you're Republican, if you're Democratic, you're like, oh my God, it's like I'm allergic to Fox News, and I'm not political in any way, so I don't really give a shit about all of that. So put that all aside. But I had met this guy, Keith Abloh, years ago, maybe 15 or so years ago, through one of our investors, Chris Birch, who was the billionaire who founded Tory Burch, his wife, his ex-wife. And my wife, ironically, Ella, wrote the business plan coming out of Columbia Business School for Tory Burch and kind of helped launch that business. But so Keith Abloh I had not seen forever. He somehow showed up in Greg's LinkedIn and connected. And so he happens to be in Boston, but he's a pretty well-known psychologist, wrote several books. And but also had a huge, like, kind of federal battle of being accused of a lot of different things and kind of like lost his license, the whole 9 yards. But so I ended up actually connecting with him. Megan connected with him last week. I met him in person just yesterday. And there's a comment he made that I like. And it was a comment. He's done a lot of work, I guess, helping. He's kind of pretty impressive people he's helped. But this General Diaz said to him, because Keith became damaged through the process of being accused, federal, process and everything. And so he lost his license. So he was ashamed to actually work, with this group. This General Diaz runs this veteran group helping military veterans and recover and get stronger and all this stuff. And so he was sheepish saying, like, do you know what happened to me? Basically, are you sure you want to work with me? And he loves what this guy said. General Diaz said, I don't trust anyone without a limp. So I don't trust anyone without a limp. Now, I translate that, and I love that little phrase, where if you have a limp, you went to battle and you survived, but you have scars from the battle. If you have a limp, you're walking, you're maybe even running, versus if you said, I lost a limb or hurt my limb, so I no longer walk and just laying in bed or in a chair, people don't refer to as having a limp. There's an actionable part of getting back in the game with that limp. And so the notion of finding more humans that have serious limps who are moving and pushing and training. And I was writing back to Keith this morning. He was like, oh my God, the great connecting and all the stuff. I think he's going to come and speak at the Human Summit. So there's a lot of stuff that he wants to talk about. He has a website called Pain to Power. And how do you recover from pain? And how do you rebuild your life, your brand, and win? And I think he himself is going through the process of the journey. And so we bonded, of course, all this, what we went through. But this notion of I don't trust anyone without a limp, and finding others who have been through battle, and then hearing what they went through. And I'm going to share a couple stories of this that's interesting. So this is interesting. So then the other group I had dinner with last night, there's a group, and just mind you, I have never met a single one of these people. There are 40 individuals at this church my sister goes to. And for the last 32 months, it's 958 days and nights. Every one of them prayed for Megan and I. And they sent prayers through my sister every single day as we went through. So I told my sister I want to go and I've never met these people, buy them dinner, and and this church went through this horrible thing. It became national news, Park Street Church, and there was a fracturing, and like everyone, like pastors got fired. And I mean, and just so you know, my mom's a pastor, but I grew up forced to be religious, and I don't go to church unless my parents are in town, which is like very rarely. So I don't, but they went through this massive falling apart. I mean, soul searching. How could Christians do this? I mean, it was just awful, awful stuff. And they're still healing and building. And it went from like kind of nowhere to now it's like back to 250 people at this church. And they're like climbing up. And so they all went through trauma. And I shared with them this whole, I don't trust anyone without a limp. And given what battle we went through, there was almost an instant bonding. And everyone who had a legal issue and something, bring it up. Everyone who had major battles of cancer went not bringing it up. Everyone, of course, that the pastor and the people fighting at the church level and wondering, like, kind of telling their story, what happened, and so interested. And so this is my note from Chue wrote back, so it's an amazing thing. And I wrote, oh, that's wonderful. So glad it worked out. I had fun, and they were a really interesting bunch of people and very relatable because of the church battles. Feel they need more healing to get empowerment. This guy I met years ago, Keith Abloh, through our investor, Chris Birch, met him yesterday. He has a website, paintopower.com. Pain leads to power when done right. And I say when done right. Pain does not lead to power when done wrong. When done wrong, it leads to trauma. It leads to making you sicker, weaker, makes you check out of life. It kills you. But on the flip side, it becomes literally your source of power. Your low point becomes the reason why you can do almost anything. Now, here are some notes There's many notes we got of kind of what happened to us. These are three different people. I think Megan shared one of them. The tactics the government used were set to disrupt break momentum, stun, shock, and embarrass you at every opportunity. The never-ending screw turning to complicate your minds and reduce decision-making to the point where you would simply surrender. You never surrender. Another individual wrote, you have a compelling story to tell, two juries, a unanimous verdict in less than 6 hours, a judge whose reasoning pointed squarely towards Burke, who's the four-star admiral who kind of roped us into this huge mess. Another individual, the government had not one but two opportunities to find you guilty and failed. It was in the interest of the government, given they did a lot of wrongdoing through the corruption and the bullying nature of using their power. And the only way to silence us and to bury all the wrong they did was to beat us, and they failed. And so I texted Megan from when I was in Korea last week, agree, our story uncovers the corrupt power of the DOJ. The fact that they can do this means everyone and anyone is in danger. A personal grudge, an accidental life encounter, a random conference you attend. They can cherry pick your text or note and use that to basically end you, put you in jail, end you financially, mentally, physically. Our case has nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with self-interest, career motivation by government employees, and how corruptible the system is. So we are looking to share and tell the story. So I'm going to keep that in context because it will give you sort of the relatable component of where some of these lessons and details are coming from. So kind of jumping gears a little bit, AI. I mean, Claude is one of the top AI firms. I think Anthropic, just filed to go public recently, almost $1 trillion valuation. There's OpenAI, there's a bunch of other firms. And, the three features in Claude: chat, co-work, and code. So I haven't got to the code part yet, but I'm in the co-work. And this is what AI is really good at doing. On one hand, it's good at helping you expand, as in create more images, ideas, write-ups, explore stuff, just generate stuff, right? If you're like, man, I have a blank page of paper and I have to go write a 30-page paper for my high school assignment. How do I write 30 pages? All you have to do is say, write 30 pages, and it will write 30 pages. It can generate stuff with virtually no push. I mean, one word you could probably just put 30 pages and boom, it just can create and expand so rapidly. On one hand, how exciting, right? How exciting that, when maybe it's not this way. When I grew up in high school, the criteria was the number of pages. Your assignment was you had to write a 30-page assignment. It was a 10-page assignment. So if the metric of success is volume, really easy to do easily now. I mean, you can do it while you go have lunch, right? But then the flip side is AI is really good at contracting. It's good at summarizing. You can take a book and say, give it to me in 3 bullets, right? Remember the old Cliff Notes? For those of you who don't know, it's this little yellow thing that lets you cheat across all books, but now you have it in your fingertips. You can literally just ask anything. I mean, you find an article and you're like, oh, it's a page and a half. Summarize it for me in 2 bullets. It can summarize, it can reduce, it can filter. So it's incredibly powerful. It can go both ways. Now, here's the interesting insight. So can the human mind. The human mind does that exact thing. Human judgment lets you create, expand, come up with new ideas, come up with stuff. Human judgment also contracts. It's almost like you go through and be like, what was the most important part? You'll go through this whole class. Some of you will fall asleep maybe. Some of you will be like, I can't wait till this is over. But then no matter what, someone will say, so what'd you remember? What'd you take away? See, that's your contraction. That's your summarization. And there's a part where you might say, well, was that the right answer? It's not about the right answer. What is your summarization? What is your takeaway? That you coming up with something, or you saying, you know what, the thing that keeps spinning in my head or that I keep remembering is this. That's human judgment. It is one of the most important trainable skills. And if you think of what's happening with AI now, they're using AI to train AI more, right? AI is coding itself and it's going faster and faster. So the speed that AI is trying to say, you know what? Human beings, you don't need to think. You don't need to do creation or filtering or summarize. Let me do all that for you. So just there, it's a battle. They're fighting. And there's a part where it's not about AI or human. It's human, then AI. If you do it in the right sequence, the power of both together is what's super powerful. Gone the wrong way, you will see it will be an absolute disaster. And I think that's what most people are facing. So we'll touch on that a little bit. Just really quick, I wanted to share this just to give you some context. What does winning look like? And I put the word new. This is the new winning. And why this is new is that the old way of winning is that the world moves so slow, information moves so slow. The value was on a strategic plan that was just done really well. The accuracy of your plan and your ability to carve out the step-by-step function, the budgets, the people required, and if it follows the steps, that was the most brilliant strategic planning person. They became CEO, they become head of strategy. And so everyone valued, and people would spend years, months and years putting a plan together and predicting exactly how we went, the step-by-step function. The problem now is that things are changing so fast. By the time you print it, even a draft of it, it's already got tons of misassumptions, errors, and a lot of stuff that doesn't work. So how do you plan and strategize in a world where it's changing that fast? A lot of wrong signals. On the very left, the green dots are things that kind of spark interest. And if it works well enough is what I call shockingly cool. If you take a bold enough shot and you get a visceral reaction, whether it is making money reaction or just interest, shockingly cool. I understand the high school team that took a tour of our office now thinks Reed is like amazing. That's a shockingly cool visit. How many other shockingly cool visits do you have? And that's the bar you need to shoot for. And if you have something shockingly cool, and then you start picking in that direction, investing in the direction, the thing that's shockingly cool, compound enough success, you get momentum. And momentum is when you get on fire. And when you get on fire, what comes next is making money. Enough value compounded with momentum creates return on investment ROI. It's how you make money. This is the pathway that it has to go. And why I share this is getting on fire is a critical element of actually being able to say no. So if I push forward a little bit, and there's a lot in here. So high level summary of what we're going to cover on the today. When bad things happen, think about anything bad, anything challenging for any of us. We tend to go into one of two things. Save mode. And I'm talking about saving human energy, saving mind share, saving kind of like, oh, I need to rest more. I need to not spend energy. I need to save money. Everything is about save mode. Or I would call the wrong training. And I'm going to elaborate what the wrong training is. When bad things happen, we tend to do all the wrong things. Sorry, I misanimated. Give me one sec. Has this thing. Sorry, some of the stuff where is this guy didn't show up. Okay. Pretend that didn't happen. So there you go. Spend energy mode. This is the counterintuitive part, why I gave Laura the yes button. When bad things happen, it's counterintuitive that you need to spend human energy. I talked to this about even with the team at church and other groups, even this week. It is counterintuitive when bad things happen that you need to increase your training. You need to increase in your training protocol, 2x, 5x, 10x. It is not the time. Sorry, I got my little parentheses. Anyone here? But yes, spend the energy in the right way. So let me give you this big diagram and kind of work through what this says here. So I want to start in the upper right, what winning looks like. What winning looks like is up here in the upper right. If I work backwards from it, there are two types of no, and we're going to talk about this a lot in the class. What I call an elite no versus a simple no. Most of us just know the simple no. And the simple no, and focusing on the simple no, actually still leads to distractions and spirals, grinding. I know in the last leadership in practice, I think, Tom, you asked this question about grinding and even that you're good at grinding. Grinding is the same as being stuck. It is not the place to be. It's the place where you go nowhere. Fear and frustration are the places where you go nowhere. And then I think Megan mentioned in the class, Charlie hates the word pivot. And I know pivot is a term that's used a lot. And let me clarify why I dislike the word pivot to a big degree. And I know Megan made fun of it, said she likes pivot, but I'll tell you why I hate the word pivot. I hate the word pivot not because of what it actually should mean, but because of what it now has become in meaning. A pivot comes from, say, basketball, right? When you play basketball, one foot is planted. And when you pivot, you can't change that planting foot. It's a commitment to that foot. And then you're going through and trying to find different approaches to advance the play, different approaches to figure out how to pass the ball, shoot the ball. But like the commitment to that pivoted foot does not change. Because if the minute you try to, well, I want to pivot a different foot, it's called travel. The whistle blows. It's a foul. You lose the ball. Pivot has become synonymous with ditch the existing strategy, ditch the existing project, person, and let me find something easier. Let me go find something new. The modern day pivot is travel. Travel, as in traveling in basketball. It's a foul. Like it is literally a overly used common way to justify being schizo, being uncommitted, being, don't bloom where you're planted, but constantly look for new friends, new coworkers, new bosses, new mentors, new projects, just new technology. Just give me something new because this is too hard. That's why I hate the word pivot. Not because of what it should mean, but what it actually has translated to mean when people use it. We pivoted. I'm like, you didn't pivot. You ditched the idea. You're trying to, find a brand new idea that you think will be easier. And so that's why I hate the word pivot. So I'm going to work backwards from the two types of no, because an elite no comes from an abundance mindset. A simple no comes from a scarcity mindset. And I'll touch on this more. So on the abundance mindset, the idea of abundance, think about a cup. When your cup is full, and abundance is not only full, it's spilling over. That's where you want to get to. And I'll talk more on this notion of even, I don't know if you've been on fire on a project, or maybe you've been on fire in a video game, but you just feel like you're advancing, you're just kicking ass, doing so well. And when someone wants to bother you, you know how annoying it is? And you're not scared to say, hey, no, not now, right? Do not bother me. When you are on fire, it's easy to say no. And for all the right reasons, because I'm focused, I'm making progress, I'm doing stuff. So many things that seem distraction, like when you don't have abundance, suddenly don't work. Like you're that focused because things are working. When you have the scarcity mindset, nothing's working, everything feels empty, everything sort of feels stuck. Now distractions not only are easy, but you're looking for them too. And I think Megan talked about this in the lib class as well, this notion of like, doesn't someone need help? Doesn't someone need something? Like, is someone sending me a message? Why is no one writing? And if you're in high school, you might be like, shouldn't the parents at least check in with me at some point? Like, and kids hate when their parents check in. And I think when they do, you just don't respond. It's like such an asshole move. But like, put that aside. If you don't hear from them and you're stuck, you're like going to think, why is no one reaching out to you? That place of like, you're looking for distraction. So when I peel back scarcity mindset, there are three things. I put it in a dashed green that lead to scarcity mindset. One is when you believe that the notion of abundance comes from manifestations, from a willpower-based, powerful story. If you think the narrative and story is what gives you abundance, it does not. It gives you temporary abundance. And then it quickly puts you into scarcity mode. I'm going to share a story that's an interesting illustrative example of this. Body routines. This is sleep, exercise, nutrition. What do? Right? In order for me to feel better, I'm going to focus on getting healthy again. I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to focus on that. And I'm not saying that's not important. It's that you will find that you will get only a temporary lift, and then you will go right back to scarcity because it is not fixing the majority right thing. The notion of faith, and I had this conversation with this whole group at church, got asked this question a lot. The thing I put in the text, like, what role does God play, even for you, and what happened? And this notion that faith is important. And I told them, a guy we met, Dan Ariely, I loved what he learned through the research and insight, that basically faith can sound like a crazy mental trick, right? I mean, people with way too much faith, if you ever meet them, they kind of seem like psychos at times. And so you're talking about overly religious people. But the flip side of that same psycho trait are like conspiracy theorists. And Dan Ariely found that they're the exact same. So both of them have a lot of faith, just in different directions. People who believe in conspiracy theories believe everyone is out to get them. Everyone is evil, corrupt, and so they are looking for and they're predicting and coming up with all kinds of scenarios. And it is a miserable life. Even if you're right, it's a miserable life where you feel the misery twice. Once when you imagine it, and that's all the time, and then when it actually happens, it doesn't feel any better, you feel the pain again. You get sick from experiencing that pain made up in your head first, and then if any of those happen for real, you get even sicker because you experience it again. Religion is actually the exact same. Those hardcore religion, they believe everything's going to be okay. I mean, I have seen like people in like the extreme religious side, everything is going bad, and they're like, God will save us. And I'm like, no, he won't. Like, I just got stage 4 cancer. God will save me. I'm like, no, you won't. Stop eating the sugar. Like, you have to actually take action. And so what's interesting in this conversation I had is, what role does faith play? Faith plays a critical role in giving you the spark to go do the hard work. Faith is what you need. That's the 5%. To go and do the hard work, which is the 95%, in the routine until it starts to become, hard work becomes more automatic. So I'm going to touch on this more. Sorry if I'm overwhelming you, but yeah, I put like elite knows will help solve this. And so this is what we'll go into a little bit. At the same time, I put use it. This notion of when you feel inspired with a story, do something. As in, not like, well, I'm going to like, no, as in like, do the hard work. Doing the hard work, Bill, and I'll touch on what the hard work is so hard that when you feel the energy, you have to use it. When you go do a workout or something that you actually slept decent tonight, you got to use it. Most of us don't. Most of us sit back and be like, wow, when's the last time I felt this good? It's going to sit here in it. Right? When's the last time I had like, my head's not spinning. I don't have a migraine. I'm like thinking clear. I'm just going to enjoy it. Like, when's the last time I got so inspired meeting someone or hearing a story, and then I'm like, just, wow, I don't know what to do with it. And you do nothing. And so that itself is also a skill that you have to train. So I'm going to tell you a fun story after this. So, but 2 quick notions of the no. The simple no is willpower-based scarcity mindset. Think about when you say, I can't do this, I'm overwhelmed, I'm desperate. A lot of us feel this all the time. So I don't want you to think that you're a bad human being for this, except that we do not recognize that there's a difference between a simple no and an elite no. And the elite no only comes if you earn it through routine. You have to earn abundance. And when you earn abundance, it will make you calm. I always say a no equals a double yes. The ability to say no aggressively because I'm focused on saying yes twice, 10 times, 100 times on the thing I'm working on. And this is the when I'm on fire, don't bother me annoyance. That's a brilliant place to be. When something is working so much that you almost can't be distracted, and when someone tries to distract you, you are not worried about like being rude. You're just saying stop and like, or shut the F up. Like I'm busy here. I'm doing this. That's a place you have to earn the right to be at versus when you're not on fire, you want distractions. Somebody out there who I can, like get an idea from, talk to. I'm stuck. How many of you are, I'm stuck, right? I need to find somebody to help jar me unstuck. That's called low agency. The words, I need somebody. I need somebody to help me as opposed to, no, I can do it myself. And then when you actually are on fire, you'll see you become a magnet to others who want to come and join you. What feels like, wow, what you're working on is a lot easier. Well, I'm going to touch on this a little bit more in detail. So quick story. 2 weeks ago, I guess, is it 2 weeks ago? Yeah, it might be like a week ago. I was in Korea. We haven't vacation in 32 months. So went with a family for 2 weeks, Japan, Korea. And the DMZ is the demarcation zone, the border between North and South Korea. You might have seen like pictures of Kim Kardashian, the blue building and all the stuff, but
A lot of movie
right?
about it.
There's a lot of movies about it. So I've never been. I didn't know in Korea, it's like the most visited spot in Korea. So like, by the way, they have a huge part they could take from Alcatraz in San Francisco. I totally digress, but Alcatraz is an amazing visit if you ever go to San Francisco. The DMZ is not. Like it was so not well done, so boring. I feel like they have so much to learn, but so much potential. But anyways, went to the DMZ. Picture me, kids, my wife. This is the best picture you'll get, DMZ. And they say that you literally cannot take pictures of the North Korea, which you can see, which is so dumb because it's nothing really. But so in the process, there's something interesting that happened. We had a chance with our tour guide who's like translating to meet a woman who escaped from North Korea. 10 years ago, she escaped. And she spends time now telling the story. So I'm just going to show you like my text to Megan telling her about this. So let's kind of partly read it. So I wrote, just met a woman who defected from North Korea 10 years ago. Her husband died in jail. She almost died. She had no idea the husband had died, within 4 months. But 4 years later, she smuggled her son out at 14 years old. Part of DMZ border tour was meeting this woman who escaped. We got a private sit down with her, just our family. She does this talk like 5, sometimes 6 times a day for tourists since February, and that's her job, talking about what happened. Think usually not as emotional, but my wife Ella started crying. She started crying, saying, as you hear the story, I cannot believe how brave you were. And then our kids started crying. Then I started crying. The tour guide started crying, and she started crying. And I said, anyways, I couldn't get myself to ask her what I wanted to ask. I felt I would lose it emotionally. I wanted to ask her how she dealt with her trauma and anger. And I couldn't because I didn't want to break down too much in front of my kids. It was too emotional for me to ask her that. But at the end, she kept making hearts with her hands and kept hugging us. She felt she had been seen as a human versus she's almost on display as an animal. And so before I go to the next part of it, I'll just give you more context. Or actually, maybe I put it over here. Did I put it in here? Okay, maybe. Interesting, Ella was asking me what I thought North Korea woman had to do, as in what does she have to do to survive? They put her and her husband in jail, and they torture, physically beat her, starve her, and what happens is she's wearing everything, covering every aspect of her body, including gloves, because she doesn't want anyone to see the scars. It's her. I mean, she's wearing sunglasses. Pretty much the whole body is covered because they beat and physically abused her. They starved her. She didn't know that her husband in jail had died 4 months just being in jail. She stayed and survived years. And then they threw her out of jail because she was so weak and sick. They wanted her to die in the field. They didn't want her to die in the jail. But she found a way to not only survive, obviously the years in jail, and then escaped, like worked, got smuggled out, took a month, came to South Korea, then spent and left her 10-year-old child in North Korea, and then spent years saving money to then get him out. He's 20 years old now in university. And of course, the question she gets asked all the time, like, how did you survive? What went through your head? What did you do? And the answer she tells is because of her son, right? Her son, she survived for her son. The father, for whatever reason, did not and died within 4 months. She went years. And not only that, but found the energy to escape and whatnot. And so I was talking with my wife, Ella, after, and I said, although that is true, the story of the son is true. It is 5%. The important part that she's not remembering and going into detail reflecting and nobody talks about is not the big story of the son. It's what it takes every day struggle, everyday fight to show up, to stay alive, to then find the will to get strong enough to move, to live. That everyday fight is 1,000 times harder than the one story of fighting for her son. Because the son story is true and it deserves its weight, but it's overweighted. And when you find people who have limps, who have struggled through difficulty, they end up distorting the truth because the story that sticks, that others say, wow, that is easy to digest the intense stories of because of my son. But on an everyday basis, that is not what happens. And Megan and I, as we go through and we're unpacking and teaching the components, we went through 958 days and nights, having to show up every single day to not give up, to actually, and that's not enough, to fight, to innovate, to find a way to win despite the impossibility of it. That is the skill to learn. The stories will always be there and they're important to tell, but the focus of what needs to be trained is usually in the wrong area. So willpower, the intensity of the story, not the place. The routine, the consistency is where all the magic and value will be. So moving on this, I had a chance while taking Amtrak up to Boston to listen to Megan's 2 leadership and practice classes. And my God, did she make a lot of mistakes. Totally teasing. She was phenomenal. She was phenomenal. I have pages and pages of notes. I'll show you my notes. And then Megan sent me a picture just yesterday. So this is her on vacation right now with her 2 boys that she did not get to spend time with that much for almost 3 years because we worked 7 days a week, 12 to 16 hours every single day to be able to fight. And the notion of why we are stronger, not only through them, was because, once again, we invested in many key components on leadership, training your mind. So I'll touch on some of this. So this was my notes in the train while listening to Lip 282. There are different parts that she talked about. Everything from when you do something difficult once, you know you can do it again. When something feels impossible, you're going to tap into that story of I did it before. Now, keep in mind the same thing I just said with the North Korean woman. When it feels impossible, you can tap into that story once, maybe twice, maybe even 3 times. But tell me in the 10th time when you're stuck again, does it work? And you will quickly see, if you haven't had experience, it is not enough. It is not nearly enough, but it is important, but it's not nearly enough. She talked about this notion of creating the evidence for yourself. Everyone thinks about the evidence. We won this huge case. That's evidence. But you know the evidence we don't talk about and think about? How about the everyday evidence? If you can remember the single days that you had challenge and struggle and you could not snap out of it, you are migraine, head spinning, stuck. What did you do in those days to get yourself right and fight and win? Fight and create momentum, direction. Think of how many more days of that exists than the big story days. 1,000 to 1. To find the evidence of that helps you on an everyday basis as well. So, but that's all story. And I say story is only a fraction. There's a whole section I put in here that Megan put in and I love, which is, and I'll summarize this. So this is some of my notes. You can see I use like markers, colors, jumping all over the place. Lip 283, like she was talking about this notion of constantly adjusting, live streaming. I love this notion. Live streaming is when you hit the truth and you get the truth in the table, you get your brain back. And I'll touch on this notion of why our inability to get our fully engaged brain is because we have something bothersome in our head that we refuse to look at. And that overdone movement of, well, be positive, don't be negative. When you shine in the negative, you feed energy in the negative grows. No, it grows anyways. And if you are unable to have the courage to look at it, to expose it, bring it out, it grows even faster. It grows like a weed, like mold in your own head. And so it's counterintuitive that you have to expose it, bring it out to be able to cut it in half. And then you expose it, you cut it in half again. This woman from North Korea, oddly, 10 years in, her biggest healing component has been to tell the story. And yet she tells the generic story. And so she's not emotional when she tells it. We were one of the first families she got emotional. And you should have seen her. The way she didn't want to say goodbye to us, kept hugging and crying. And it's the release she felt to touch on components that she doesn't touch on in the generic tour. That notion of going deeper and deeper, and you'll see for everyone, the levels you have to go deeper to touch those moments where it's like scary. And when you expose that scary is when you get your brain back. When you leave that scary buried in your head, it is a fucking demon seed growing in your brain. And you think this notion of, well, if I talk about it, I'll make it worse. Yeah, there are absolutely ways where whining, complaining, talking about it can make it worse. But do not underestimate leaving a wicked seed planted in your brain does not make it go away. It grows. And it will grow bigger and stronger than you can possibly imagine. So live streaming is a big key. Authentic conversation is a part we'll talk on as well. So these are Megan's notes. But here's what I like that Megan focused on too in her notes in her class. The most ironic thing to be creative, that you need rigor and discipline. You need movement. You need walls. You need oscillations. She was mentioning that in the time that we were apart, she realized how important setup was. And we talked about this even with the boss group. The amount of work it takes to make oscillations easy enough so that it's automatic. Weeding, cold plunging, exercising may only be a piece of it. But I mentioned to even the team in Boston, drink a shitload of water. As in, like, drink so much, it forces you to have to go to the bathroom. See, that's a forced oscillation. And then have a water bottle that's not so big that you can sit on your lazy ass and sit there and never have to fill it. No, you have to go refill it. That's an oscillation. So this notion, everyone's drinking water now, right? But drink aggressively, like not alcohol, not juice. I'm talking about water. Drink water or drink green tea or just regular tea. Just drink aggressively. That will force an oscillation. That's just one element. But this notion that it's counterintuitive how intentional and disciplined you need to be in your oscillations. So some of the takeaways from there. So I'm going to add two pieces here along with the insight. And so this topic of grinding came up. Grinding to me is the equivalent of someone who's stuck. And let's just be honest, most of us are stuck in almost everything. Like the few of us who might have moments where you're not stuck, great. I hope you keep pressing and I hope you're going on fire and eventually getting the ROI. If not, you will be right back again, like every human being, back to being stuck. And so there's a couple different insights, and this is going to the elite no. And that this is the key. Minimize, and I'll emphasize the word minimize frivolous distractions. It's not eliminate, because it is not possible. Not in today's environment. Hey, I play video games. I know I should be not getting up and pick up your phone and make sure I got sucked into some game that you can play offline games. They try to sell you this thing with this, I don't know if you've seen the ads, but it's this mom with the daughter and the father is awful and then they're cold and freezing. And so how do you save them? So of course, I download it, right? And so here I am, right? I forgot what it's called. Whisper Castle is the one I was supposed to. I went to a different one called Gossip Harbor. Stupid game. But you got to harvest the oranges and make the bread and all the stuff every day. Doing it way too many times. Frivolous distraction. You're doing it. But how do you minimize it? And this is what's counterintuitive. So I'm grinding. I'm being frivolous. Saying, and I know Megan apologized, the word stupid has become as offensive as anything. So just take it as an older person using the word to mean whatever synonym you want to use for that. But let me be stupid for a second. As in, expose what I'm doing. It does several things. It gives permission to other people to criticize, to judge you, you're still playing the game. If I said, let me be stupid for a second, I'm being stupid. It's easier for you to say that. But if I don't, right? And then I might say, you know what? I have a right to have a little free time. Can you imagine how much harder it is? The goal is not to eliminate grinding, not to eliminate being stupid. The goal is to minimize it, and you minimize it as in reduce the amount of time doing it, being stupid, by exposing it out loud. So I'm going to give you a live example. So Megan and I rarely are apart. We worked apart. So there's a 13-hour time difference. So we had 1 day overlap last Friday. So she's like almost passing the baton of all these things happening, right? And then it's like, I'm leaving first thing in the morning, 2-week vacation, like kind of like giving all the stuff. And there's a little bit of a good luck, right? So I'm like, right? 1 day, crash course, a lot happens in the course of a day. We just literally had trial 6 weeks ago. So this was like, okay, so, and then we had some celebrations before that. So like, we're kind of diving into a lot of stuff. We have an event coming up, and guest lists and speakers and everything, and stuck in different ways. And so Saturday, I'm drafting and thinking what to do, but spending time mostly all day with my daughter, Olivia. That's when we watch Pitch Perfect and, the riff off and talk about Sex Baby with a 12-year-old, but that's not what I realized until I recited the song. But putting that aside, Sunday I go into the office, right? And, my printer has had issues. It prints with this market, right? And what's easy now is you can take ChatGPT, take a picture of the printer, take a picture of this, feed it in saying, how do I fix this? Right? Oh, it's got a lot of suggestions on how to fix it, right? Print it in the 4 different colors to see which one smudges the most. Then start replacing the drums of the one that smudges the most. If it's not that, do this, print a thing called black and white only text and see what happens. I am going through and I'm spending hours, right? And when I print like my to-do list, like I just wrote my thoughts and drafted in just a separate notepad while I was away for 2 weeks. I printed it, it's 10 pages, single space. I can't read the left side very well because it's got smudges. And so I'm like, I can't work like this, right? So I'm trying to print to other printers in the office, but I didn't properly set up. So it prints in like screwed up font. So I'm like, I need to fix this. I convinced myself I can't do anything until I fix this. Hours. So this is what I sent to Megan. Like, she's like, basically, relax, calm down, go do the sauna. And said, thanks, I bet organizing it. So her mind's racing. So I was telling her organizing and getting a handle on things will help sleep, anxiety, etc. It's a hard feeling knowing there's a lot I don't know, and ask Kathy for some info. But I say slow, Kathy, so don't take offense. Just I was in a mad, stressful rush to try to figure out what to do. And I was like, I need information quick. So I'm trying to move fast and directional information, all part of it anyways. Don't worry about me. Go enjoy your first day. Then I write her, like, if you look at the timestamps later, I feel so useless. Feel like I'm trying to fix the printer more than anything, trying all types of stuff, including using ChatGPT. And the kind where annoyed, so smudge, can't read stuff, want fixed. Megan writes, sorry on the printer, just took a leaf cold. I sent her a picture of all the mess and said, you can feel bad for me. Just being an idiot and putzing around trying to fix printer while we have these seagull birds and they hatch and the babies. So there's 2 birds literally screaming nonstop, like screaming because they're trying to scare away predators. They're not used to me being back. So I have a great day so far. And something that was interesting? The minute I did that, I started to work on the right things. The minute I shared the picture, the minute I even tried to see, you can feel bad for me, right? And I kind of like exposed my frivolous and being stupid. And the minute she wrote, haha, I had I can do something different. That's the moment I started minimizing my frivolous distraction. Found a way to operate even with the smudge print and realized, of course, it didn't matter as much as I thought. Second thing, and this is probably way more important. So I give you the easier one. Check my phone. I need to look up something. This notion of when you are thinking, you're unable to say no. Things that fracture your thinking. So I'm going to give you the most classic example, right? So minimize the mental distraction. This is probably one of the most important. So this image itself, how many of you have experienced this, right? As in, picture that you're the Black woman on the left and you're just talking and you're like, you can see she's like engaged on fire talking. Someone's listening and right in the middle of it, they just check something on their phone. It's so little. It's not like they can't say, I'm totally listening still. But that second They just check something. It could be a text. It could just be like looking at the time clock, whatever it might be. What does it do to you? How well do you keep your focus, your thought, your flow of idea? What happens emotionally, right? That's you with someone on the tiniest interruption. Now, smash the woman and the guy together and imagine it's just you doing you. So you are thinking. You're thinking about something. How easily do you fracture that thought? Look at the phone. Look up something. Put something into, ChatGPT or Claude or anyone, like ask something. Go try to get someone's feedback advice. Go look for the tiniest distraction as opposed to pushing through on your thought. You distract. And you think it's no big deal, right? I mean, you know how many times this is the part. It's minimize. Remember, it's not eliminate, minimize. As I'm going through making the lip class and getting stuck, like, should harvest the oranges on Gossip Harbor. I was like, you have to get these lightning bolts. I was like, it's probably at 100. It takes hours to get back to 100. So I might as well empty the 100 and make bread. I'm like, it takes nothing. Making bread, right? I'm making coffee. Like, I'm going through, like, making little ducks and fishing equipment and whatnot. And then I'll get back to the work. I'm doing it to myself. That exact annoying thing that, once again, it's so little, right? But it drives us fucking crazy. If you're talking on a topic, and imagine it's a topic that's serious, meaningful to you, and you're going through and you're in the flow, right? And then maybe you get to a part where you're stuck, you're struggling. And in that moment, what does someone do? They check their phone. And you know what you want to say? You motherfucking piece of shit. I would like to take your head, smash it on the table. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't react that way. But I think about, like, I'm stuck, I'm struggling. And like that moment, it's nothing. But you can feel that kind of like distraction, pain, fracture. And you lose track of what you're working on, what you're stuck in. And instead of actually focusing on that, you're now focusing on how annoying and how disengaged this person was, even though it was so tiny. And yet, I think of how much we do that to ourselves. And so how do you recognize it? How do you see it? How you minimize it? And so the punchline of the two most important elements of uninterrupted thinking that we have to build is live streaming and visceral drafting. I put this through ChatGPT. I was like, make me two icons, right, that describe what these are. Live streaming, unfiltered thoughts, shared, real-time, honest human. Visceral drafting is inward focus, raw intuition, intentional creation, no audience, just you. So I'll show you how this works together. And I'll show you kind of in practicality, applying it to one of the biggest crucibles. So how we won beating the US government was up-leveling two skills. I only have a few slides in it. We'll do questions. Again, I'm hoping some of this stuff triggers pieces that can kind of get into real work here. So we committed not only to putting in long hours, but we committed to up-level two skills, that we're going to up-level our routines and we're going to up-level our human judgment. Like, as in leadership, decision-making, strategy, we're going to up-level these things. So I like through this thing, US Navy, FBI, DOJ, two of the biggest entities. And, I think this image is like an image supposed to represent justice. Justice is blind and it's going to weigh the facts and give you sort of a fair shake. Is not true at all. The US government is way too powerful. It's not a fair fight. This is us and the legal team outside the courthouse, federal in Boston. After 11 full days in trial, the jury decides in less than 6 hours. It was a slaughtering from us to the government. 12-0, like less than 6 hours. It's unheard of, to the point where we had the best lawyers in the world, and they were so emotional because they could not believe it as well. And this is the hard truth of what we learned. If you are innocent and you have documented, as in mounds and mounds of documented evidence of innocence, you will still lose. It's not even close. 99.9% of the time, you will lose against the US government. If you have on top of the evidence, the best lawyers in the world. And so we had two law firms. Quinn is the number one litigation firm in the world, and the CEO of Quinn was my lawyer. This guy's the number one of number ones. Reed Brodsky is from Gibson Dunn, the number 4 litigation firm in the world. The head of litigation was Megan's lawyer. You cannot get better than seeing two powerhouses together on the same team with us. We still would have lost. Can't win. It took a third piece. And this third piece, I call it the new human skills. When you think of leadership, when you think of human judgment, I'm not talking about the old human skills. A lot of leadership, a lot of this work is defined through the old stuff. The old stuff belongs in the old industrial age world where most people are followers. Most people are almost still working like white collar version of factory workers. There's a new human skill. So we've been breaking down, and this is kind of what AI coach spit back at me when I'll show you the notes I put into it if you want. The DOJ case study, what it actually took. Walk through this is what AI coach told me to do with you guys. Walk through the DOJ win as proof of concept. The commitment you and Charlie made wasn't just to work harder. It was to up-level 2 specific things, routines and human judgment skills. Show the graphic of human judgment LSD framework, I'll show you in a sec. Then drill into routine using the 7-day structure with live stream and visceral drafting icons integrated throughout. Make it concrete. This is what the routine looked like day by day. This is where VD happened. This is how live streaming kept momentum visible. So I made this sheet. Maybe this is too much to digest at once, but human judgments and top, routines in the bottom, and how you have to train both. But training both, the hardest work actually is in the routine. And I put AI too soon, AI too early. People need to train very differently. If you want to be a master of adding value, being productive in this new era, you have to learn how to use AI, but not before you first train your own judgment. Set your own routine so the right thing is more important. Otherwise, I hate to tell you, AI is a serpent. It will take over your judgment. It is so easy to say, you know what, I've got this thing called skills. You know, like, how about I analyze it, graph it, PowerPoint it, create a PDF for you, and then analyze all your emails and whatever's in your desktop, and then tell you what I believe you're trying to do and tell you how to do it better. And you read it and you're like, oh my God, it's so overwhelming, but it sounds so good. And I can't possibly do all that. Right there, you've checked your judgment. You've chosen to opt out. And so before you use AI, because if you start using AI, the problem is this, you can't say no. It is so damn seductive. You can't say no. This notion of, I said, you can expand, but you can contract. Tell me once you see anything produced by AI, the amount of mental energy it takes for you to chop apart and cross out, nope, 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 nope. Do you know how hard it is? They all sound so sweet, seductively good enough. See, not great, a lot of good enough. You can't cross it out. And so since you can't cross it out, you can't figure out what the hell should I do? So what do? I'm going to go back to my master AI and ask it, can you try to make it shorter? You consistently iterate and give judgment and power to the AI. The power is when you use both. Human judgment plus AI is what makes the magic happen. Now, human judgment is made up of 3 components. I'm calling it LSD, which, just for the guys who don't know, it is a drug, but just like lip, sounds kind of funny, but we see leadership being so difficult, so we have some fun with it. So if you're offended by it, come up with your own acronym, but I like LSD. So we need a lot more LSD, right? Leadership, strategy, and decision-making, and it goes in that order. Leadership is the word I use to represent high agency, being self-driven, as in choosing to opt in. We choose to opt out. How do we choose to opt out? Well, I'm not an expert. It's not my idea. I'm not interested. You know what leadership is I don't care whose idea it is. I don't care if you're not interested. I don't care how you feel. You can choose to opt in. You can choose to make it yours. You can choose to believe, build faith that you will get this done. Full stop. That's it. Not like, well, I like to hedge just in case. Maybe, it wasn't my idea, someone else's idea, this, and you're not even aware that you're not leading. And the notion of leadership I think we're talking this week about it. The first problem is most people are not even aware that it's a choice and they're choosing to opt out. And in choosing to opt out with very subtle little serpenty comments like, well, I'm not even interested, bro. Like, and there are people who are so interested in the beginning who will claim that they were never interested. And this notion of you will distort the truth and whatnot. And once you're aware that it is a choice and I could choose to opt in, the second part is then building the muscle that you're strong enough to opt in and stay in it and then even fight. So there's a whole component there on leadership. Strategy. Strategy is this notion of you cannot write a plan and expect it to work because there is no one who is going to be good enough to predict the variables and the details of what will happen. So the notion of planning now is you need a rapid plan, which is why it's visceral. You need a plan of what Eden looks like, something good enough. But even V1, which is starting, the first thing you do, most people, their strategy is so lacking. The very first shot is so pathetic. It's so meek. So of course you're going to get no reaction. I'd rather get a visceral no than get nothing. Most things get no reaction, no attention because it's not bold enough. It's not worthy of someone's reaction. And that thing of being bold and worthy is not about shock value. It's not about like being disruptive. It's about having the skills to have good strategy making, which is all tied to live streaming and BDing. And then decision making, speed matters. How many of you, when it doesn't work, just freeze? How many of you kind of get startled, freeze? Something's working and you're like, wow, I should sit back and enjoy this moment. I'm like, do you remember the diagram with those little green dots? You know how you take shockingly, cool things and turn it into being on fire? You need like 7, 10, 50. You need momentum. And the only way you get momentum is if you move fast enough. But so if you don't have the skills to not only recognize when it's happening and move fast enough, you're just going to never see anything move beyond the, like when I first start, everything's so great. And it never goes beyond starting. But I'm going to spend time a little bit more. I mapped out while in the gym and everything, a whole much prettier version, but did not have time to make that last slide fully, but the routine part. So I'm just going to use this, but I will make a better version maybe by next week. So first on the upper right side, this is kind of important. And I put this for maybe some of the teams that are doing workshops in our office at 3 today too. BM stands for better me, not bowel movement. So, better me. There's better you, there's social, there's learning. The notion of you can look at better me simplified into your body, your mind, and then even financials, how you're doing. The problem for most people is they don't weight it correctly. The proportional value. When you work on your body, it's to be a ramp into the mind. When you even spend money on financials, it's a ramp into the mind. The mind is what matters at such a large proportion. The font size of the mind should be in relative proportion to the body and the financials. As you invest things on the body and financials, you should be thinking, shit, in proportional weighting, I need that much more on the mind. So I read, I think very last lip class asked Megan about, how do you not get sick? 958 days. We were working like 12-hour minimum, often 16-hour and sometimes even 20-hour days. Like in 20 hours, meaning like working till like 7 a.m, all-nighters, trying to make something happen and you get no response. Like as in, like nothing works. And I'm just going to read what I wrote my handwritten. I didn't get it translated. Think of everything as a ramp into the work on the mind. Live stream is usually the precursor before you start the visceral draft. And one of the litmus tests when you hit something good is it feels scary. Some people feel being vulnerable scary. Some people are so good at being vulnerable that actually that's not scary. Like whatever it might be for you that's scary. Once you push yourself mentally to a place that it feels scary on the live streaming or on the visceral drafting, that's usually the indication that you're about to hit bold. You're about to hit something of value. And that's where you have to actually train to hit repeatedly when you go through this. It's so hard to do. If you don't have routine, you can't do it. So first thing in the morning, and when I wake up, besides like feeding my oranges and all that stuff, is doing what I call my PP, like plank and push-ups. But all of it is not about physical. It's to try to think about, what do I want to do? What's on my mind? And going through that process. I mean, this morning when I was at the gym, like tired, jet lagged, trying to finish the class, doing my PP, I wrote down the thought I had was, sometimes what I don't want to be like that woman from North Korea. I don't want to be someone who's spending 5 to 6 times a day telling the story of how we beat the DOJ. I don't want that. I don't want to be giving keynotes and talks. A few times, yes, I want to tell the story and whatnot, but I do not want to make it my life to go and spend time doing that and being like an animal being watched by others. And yes, in the beginning, oh my God, so inspiring. So this is great, but that's something I do not want. I want that experience to be the foundation to do great things. And I want to go do that fast, aggressive. So that's an example. In the morning, while doing my plank in the loud equinox, scribbling down what I don't want, which led to then what I do want. And I don't even know what it is exactly, but I know it's not that, and I want something more with it. Then usually, this is the notion of up-leveling. Megan and I, Monday through Friday, get into the office around 9 o'clock. The first thing we do, and we try to time it almost identical, we have coffee with apples and pecans. Healthy, and it's even sliced in a way, it's almost like a metronome, so we can talk. And one of the important things in routine I picked up for Greg and Weiwei is they start the day in a room full of noise. Start the day in quiet space. If you start the day with notes and things on the wall in front of you, right from the beginning, you're hijacking your own mind off of yesterday's information, off of someone else's stuff. So quiet, empty your space is what you want to try to start the day. And so while we're eating, which is doing something that you need to do anyways, you're habit stacking, and you're actually going through live streaming all the thoughts that go through your head and you'll see until you hit that moment of authentic, scary, truthful stuff, it doesn't turn into a good visceral draft. And sometimes when you don't know, try to visceral draft. Ask yourself the hard questions. What do I really want to accomplish? Not just today, not with this week, but like the big stuff. What do I want to do? Right? Like the big things. Right? Try to write it down. You'll see you're stuck. You need to get fired up mentally. And live streaming, when you hit the right things, will get you there. But that live streaming is very difficult, especially when you're trying to do it, especially with somebody else. Megan touched on this whole notion of red arrow behaviors or RABs. People just suck. I hate to tell you, human beings fucking suck. They suck at being authentic. They suck at actually helping you have an authentic conversation. This group yesterday, this church group, it's fascinating. They had a whole fallout. And they were saying, church people are nice people. And they have these small groups, prayer things and whatnot. And they go and talk and everyone's like, nice. And they were saying there's a difference of what happened once the church fell apart. Horrible stuff that happened in the press for them. They're like, as we met every day, every conversation was more real. They were like, and you look in comparison, all the conversations before was low calorie. They were like fake, like they're nice people talking about nice things, talking about fucking nothing. Now they're talking about real shit and they fucking love it. There are like 250 people, literally, and they lost many along the way, are like meeting. And when they meet in a group of 3 or 2, they talk about real shit. They're like, that's awesome. And I was like, you will lose it. You're going to need to put more routine and things in, or else you'll go back to the old way of talking about low calorie nonsense and act like, wow, that was so helpful. To be able to talk about real shit, not only once, repeatedly, recently, and then keep increasing the level of what real means, that does not happen because of willpower. It happens because of routine. So for us, just to give you a sense, so we added apples and pecans, but once this case happened, we added boiled eggs, beet juice, blended lemon water, and then like added other things. And so people are like, wow, your routines are all about the exercise, nutrition, and whatnot. No. Those things were added and the conversations got more intense. The drafting and the time spent got more intense. Then I'm just giving you a sense of our routines. What do we do as we have breakfast? Then we go to the bathroom, right? And it's a lot of detail. But the easiest thing to do when you go to the bathroom is now the opportunity to check your phone. I feed my oranges and all that stuff too, and check quick stock market or whatnot. But the power of when you go to the bathroom, when you start thinking about what you were just talking about, when you think about what you're thinking about, like you're like not distracted thinking and moving to a different space, doing something different can unlock thought. What do we do after the bathroom? In this case, we started adding dead hangs. Dead hangs are when you kind of like hold the bar and just hang as long as possible. So sometimes it's not that long. Might have started at 20 seconds. I'm like almost at 2 minutes and Megan's still at 20 seconds. So it kind of says something, but you're thinking, what are you thinking about? Your hands are tied up above. You can't use your phone. Like visceral drafting, thinking. Sometimes
the group here has to run. Do you want to take one question or so from them?
Sure. Yeah, so I'll do a lot more routine next time, but how about this? Let's take a question. The group that has to run. Let's see, let me try to, if you can get close to the camera, share something you're like working on, struggling on. You might need to get closer to the mic.
Yeah. Anyone wants to come on? We're moving in.
You have a slight echo. I don't know what. I'm not sure which camera to look at here. But
come on. Come real quick. Yes. You can talk in here.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I mean, I feel very stuck where I'm at right now, just personally. And I made it my routine to talk about how I feel on a regular basis. And I don't know, I kind of want to expand more into like bringing that like wellness to like my like physical wellness as well. And I don't know, I just feel stuck. I feel that it's hard to actually get started to like get outside my house and work on the things. And
yeah,
it's foreign and it feels very I don't know, it just feels very strange right now.
Can I ask a quick question? So if you weren't stuck and you're able to get out of our house and you're having one of those days where everything is just fucking awesome, what do you want to do? Well,
I mean,
what would like a potential perfect day look like? Like,
go outside, like be with my friends. Weather's nice. Nothing really in my way. Just like a really great day. I don't know. I mean,
so I'm asking you this question because to me, that second question I asked you is the visceral draft. To like, you can mentally. So right now I feel stuck. I feel shitty. I feel scared to go out, or I don't feel in the mood, and I'm tired and all that stuff. And I'm not feeling energized and everything. Okay, so if someone gave you all of that, what do you want to do? And you'll see that second part is equally hard. And by the way, like what you just said kind of sounds like a little bit of nonsense and nothing. That's okay. That's your first version, right? Sounds like, hey, like in that version, the weather is nice. It sounds like you're kind of meeting some people that you do like. I'm sure you're picturing people. Okay, I don't. And as you put details, you'll see, okay, so in that picture, my Eden, my perfect day, these people aren't there, but these people are there. And then what's happening? What are you doing? Are you eating something? Are you doing something? Are you walking somewhere? Are you like talking about something? Are you working on a project? Are you talking about something to fix in the world? Some book you read, movie, or go somewhere together? Like you start to add color into it and giving yourself the reps and experience of what you want. And it doesn't mean that that will happen. But now you're starting to get a view of, in my head, that's what ideal looks like. That's what perfect looks like. And every iteration you do, you'll refine it. And once you refine it, you'll see that it's easier to refine. It's easier to chip away on something that you started chipping away at. Then you'll see, you go back and you'll say, okay, but see, I can't do that because I feel like shit. I feel unmotivated. So then you start to look at the routine. And when you talk about like the whole health and wellness and physical, people think if you fix the health and wellness, your mind will get better. And that is the biggest fucking lie. Does not happen. You have to have a goal of getting your mind well. And so you're going to use all the stuff as literally a ramp to get to the mind. It's almost like, I can't think of a good analogy. Sorry, it's going to be a bad analogy, but like sometimes before you get married, you have people you date you want to use to then try that and be like, you know what? I don't want that. So I'm going to go find this. I think of all those physical things. I'm sure a better analogy we can come up with, but like that, you're using all those things to get to the thing that matters. Yeah. So get your mind better. And then you're using the moment your mind feels better to try to draft what you want. The notion and what you want starts, the VX idea is kind of what Eden, perfect, ideal looks like. If you could dream and say, if everything was perfect and I could get everything my way and everyone did everything I want to do, that's what I want. And that has to be exciting enough that you actually want it. If you can't even articulate that and make it iterated to something you want, why the hell would you start? And when you try to start and you get stuck or no response, why the hell would you iterate and try again? So that's VX. V1 is as you kind of think and spend time, okay, I really want that. Like you're looking for a way to start, meaning you have to hit send. You have to go do something. So in that list, you might have like, okay, these are the friends I don't see in there, but these are people, you might be like, I'm just going to reach out to one of them. And what's the most common thing that happens in your world? They ghost you. They don't write back or even respond. So what do? You're like, maybe that was a dumb idea, but you look at your Eden again, your V action, you're like, but I really want that. I'm going to try again. Or maybe like when you see them next time, you'll go up to them and be like, hey, dude, like, can I just show you? I did this exercise, right? This crazy old guy told me leadership exercise, so this is what I want. You're on my list. Why'd you not respond, right? And they'll be like, stupid excuse. You pry. And this is live streaming now, resolving conflict. And if you get to a place where you're like, oh, that was a difficult conversation. We got breakthrough. You now go back and try to attack something to do. Let's go do something, right? Like, I want to go do this. And there's a notion of like that dream to then action. That stuff happens when you do your visceral drafting, you do your live streaming, but you'll see the routine matters a lot because most days, like how you feel, it's totally normal. Like, I'm assuming you're in high school. You look high schooly. All the adults in that room, I swear I have it 10 times worse. They're good at faking it and telling you like they have their shit together. Whatever you have, I promise you, it's 10 times more lethal on their side. Far worse. They do not know what the hell they're doing either. And they're struggling every day being stuck. And they too need to focus on a routine that helps them, despite feeling like shit and being stuck, still finding a way to get through to like not only survive the day, but like really push to win, to like go after shit that matters, like that's worthy. So I don't know if that helps.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, God. Someone raise your hand or is it scratching your head?
You get this way. There you go. There you go. Or there. Oh,
I was just wondering, like, how would you describe like good leadership without like overpowering others?
So it's interesting what's baked in the question of overpowering others is old leadership. Old leadership in the industrial age was all tied, and I know industrial age sounds like forever ago, but like it literally is tied to like just driving an army of people to go follow your orders, follow your strategy. And they're super good at manipulating, oh, it's your idea too. We all bought in. You know, it's all bullshit. Like that's all dead and done. That's old leadership, overpowering, great speeches and whatnot. Good leadership starts from you. Meaning, can you generate momentum, fire within yourself? Can you, live and demonstrate this limp? Can you show that, I have a limp because I went through this battle, I can share the details, and that has been the crux of my strength, not my demise. And so the notion of showing adversity with a limp, moving forward, winning, and sharing, exposing lessons, and then still being energized and alive, it emanates from within, which is why we call that better me. The overpowering usually goes into trying to get other people to do stuff. We call it better you. And the way I look at it is your cup should spill over, meaning your cup is getting so full, meaning I have physical energy, I have mental energy, I have financial, firepower, I have knowledge coming in, my energy is spilling over onto other people. That's not overpowering, that's sharing. That's giving, and that's what people want. Not forget about me, but I want to lecture you about what you need to do with your life. That's the overpowering, that lectury, condescending, looking down on you tone, or even and I know when you're younger, what sucks about what adults do, they try to take everything they're not doing, get you to do it, and tell you you're going to do great, fix the world and whatnot. And I'm like, you're so full of shit. You need to go do that. Lead by example. The best example, teachers, mentors, adults, they're so busy being on fire themselves that sharing and teaching is just baked into what they do. They spill over onto you. That's good leadership. Not I'm going to tell you what you need to do, even though my life's a mess, but I'm not going to show it to you. That's old leadership.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
Thanks, Charlie.
thank you, Reed. I hope you guys do this again. You may hate us after this, but that's okay.
Really appreciate it. I will quietly step back now, but and go downstairs and do some presentations. So thank you.
Anybody else in the Zoom, or you can raise your hand, you can unmute. Any topics? It's where high schoolers are literally a perfect parallel to the truth of what we all are facing much worse as adults. If you guys are shy on the Zoom, I don't know if you hear, if you guys have any thoughts.
Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts in the chat. So one of the things that I was saying is, when you think about visceral grafting, it's so easy for me to know what I don't want. And sometimes much harder for me to articulate what I do want. Then me and Patrick having a little bit of a chat in the chat. And I think part of it is that it's she said it is vulnerable and it is vulnerable to say what you want, because then it's if I say what I want and I don't get it, then what's the story that I tell myself from that?
So what's interesting, even Sherry, hearing you say that. First, the example of the don't want, the example of this North Korean woman. I don't want to be a zoo animal being observed telling a story 5 times a day, even though it's a monumental thing. I don't want that. And see how okay, so you don't want to be a zoo animal. But what do you want really still matters a lot, right? You see how the don't want is only a ramp to try to get to what I do want. And so a lot of people just put too much energy into don't want and don't realize it's like I said, it's dating the person. I'm trying to just date to get married to the right person. The throwaway part is the don't want. You got to take a shot at trying to figure out what you do want and try to get used to the habit of doing it right in succession. Even if it's shitty, just try. A lot of us just start with a don't want and then go to bed or for another day. So it's you don't finish the thought till you try to take a shot at what you do want. And then the part you said, it is vulnerable, it is this. And my first visceral reaction is stop putting yourself in your head. Don't even label it as vulnerable. When you label as vulnerable, you start to put it in your head. When you start to go and evaluate, if it doesn't happen, I'll be ashamed of this, you're putting yourself in your head. The notion of routine is don't think, just fucking do it. Just do it. See how even this high school kid, Like, if I press more, he can get in his head. No, he just described his thing. I mean, it sounds like kind of a totally, like, that's not a life plan. He just wants a normal day where it's good weather and hanging out with friends doing nothing. And I'm like, that's your visceral draft? Fucking sucks to me, but good enough for V1. Boom, paper it. Like,
Yeah.
no, like, well, is it worthy? Is it this? Okay, now you're getting in your head. The problem is this for most people. Everyone sucks at this because it's so counter to what we're used to doing that, of course, it's going to be wrong and shitty. And if you go and spend time analyzing it, labeling it, discussing it, or even drawing people to give you these crappy hugs and pats in the back, you're so vulnerable, so courageous. I'm like, shut the fuck up. High school kid just said nothing, right? That's all that matters. Do the reps. He does reps 10 more times. You'll see the same kid come show up. You'll be like, wow, that's like really impressive. How'd you get there? By first doing the shitty reps. So nobody gets past the shitty reps because they're so busy getting in their own head, labeling it, and and then someone else saying, oh, I couldn't do that, and you're so courageous. I'm like, oh my God, like, drop all of that shit. Don't make a mental head case of crappy reps. Like, just
do it.
just do it. Like, do you know how many shots Laura has to fire before she earns the no button? She moves so damn slow and stuff that I've told her like 100 days in a row. Like, see, and if I was Laura, and this is why Megan became CEO, she'll say, if I have to take 100 shots 100 days in a row, I'm going to double the goal. I'm going to do 100 shots in 50 days. That's how you hit 100 days. Laura will be like, well, this one's not good enough. So she'll never earn the no. The button, even though it's plastic, might disintegrate before Laura earns it. I'm just saying this, taunting Laura, saying, you don't think about it. Just fucking do it. Rep, 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 rep. Just go. Eventually you'll get good.
Thanks.
Looks like Richard with a question.
Hey, Charlie, everyone. Charlie, live streaming.
Yes.
That's a new term to me. I've not heard of that one before, but if I get it right, if you're looking at ideas with a training partner, if you take you and Megan as an example, if you've got the idea, how long do you formulate that idea in your head before you share it with Megan, or are you just, as soon as it's in, are you talking through it?
So when I think live streaming, I don't think about an idea. I don't put any constraints. It's literally just giving you a view of what is going through my head. If you saw how I answered that question for the first high school kid or the second, that was me live stream. Like, I didn't like pause and think about, or maybe even secretly on my phone, put through ChatGPT, like, what should I say that would be? No, I'm just speaking unfiltered. It's like, give your mind the space to run unfiltered. Like, think of your mind as like a wild stallion and just let it fucking run. Do not stop it. It just, speed matters. Like, let it run. And if you find yourself in every part trying to filter, hesitate, this and that, that's not live streaming. That's when you're actually interrupting. And Megan touched on this in the last leadership and practice class. To be able to break down your mental immune system or your mental bad habits that make you unable to have agency in human thinking and judgment, you need a confrontational person, which is another way to say you need someone who gives you a hard mental workout to kind of challenge you in those little things. That would be like talking to someone like, why don't you pick up your phone? Put it down right now. Finish your thought. You need someone who's confrontational, even though they might err on the side of confrontation. So I don't think of it as finding that perfect person, because that won't exist. Everyone sucks at this. So you're delusional thinking I found the perfect. When people say, oh my God, I found the perfect training partner, a perfect TP, I'm like, oh God, no, please no. I promise you they're the wrong one. Shop around, be solo, learn to do it yourself. Do it for other people, challenge them to do it for you, and be the confrontational person that creates live stream discussions. Honest, authentic discussions, Megan talked on this, gives you energy. When you have honest, authentic discussions, your brain gets fired up. That's what this church group found. Their small group, 2-3 person discussions, they were supposed to pray for each other and be all this and get energy, and it didn't work. And they thought it did until they faced the real version. The real version is 10 to 100 times better. And the thing that happens with the human mind you can't win going half-ass. You need full brain, full energy. And so not only does hitting that honest live stream, authentic, usually it's touching a scary topic, scary point in depth. And that's when you'll feel most on. Your brain will literally light up fully engaged. On the flip side, when you have bad things happen, being able to literally aggressively see the bad thing in detail, literally, just like that whole thing with the printer and whatnot. And when I put down, feel bad for me, this and that, and Megan said, ha ha, that's the exact moment my brain came back. So it takes reps. It's much harder.
Actually, to the printer example, is that a way for you to take a break from everything that's going on that's so intense that you actually find yourself in a loop of absurdity that seems to be useful? It's how you're not playing a game, you're not clicking on the ducks or whatever. You're really
I think the printer was as stupid as the game, if not worse.
But isn't yourself, you thrusted yourself through that to take a break from all the other important stuff that you were going to do
to fix the printer?
Yeah, thinking that it was going to be useful and propel you into it.
I try to ask Tom, who's more technical than me, to help fix the printer. And I said, maybe you can unscrew it and fix and wipe the drum and stuff. And he was like looking up. And, the truth is, he's like, it's cheaper to actually just buy a new one. And I was like, but I kind of still want to. And so my frivolous side is, I don't know if Tom threw the printer away. I still want to keep it and try to unscrew it and see what it looks like to try to fix it. Why not? But see, I can tell you, I know I'm being stupid. My time and mind is way more important than trying to fix that printer, which is cheaper to actually buy a new one, which he did already. Or in the same way, I kind of want to befriend the seagull birds and so them to allow me to feed them out of my own hand. Very stupid goals, right? But see, I'm able to expose it, share it. So as I spend time being frivolous, like I make it easy for someone like Megan or one of you guys and be like, you still spending time wasting your time with the birds, or are you trying to fix the printer? You can make a joke about it. See, but I'm allowing you to make it easy to make a joke about it. Versus if I say, you know what, I really needed to do that printer. Because I've been so stressed and so traumatized from this 32-month battle, I needed some really simple things to work on. So even just using AI and using this to try to fix the printer and make a little hobby out of it. And so it's like kind of breaking a car engine and building it back. I really need it. That's how most people, I'm exaggerating here, but.
Can that be an oscillation? Isn't that useful then? That's the point I'm trying to make.
I think it's not. It's as useless as the video game. I know it's stupid. And because put it this way, how much better is the oscillation to deadhead? How much better is it to go and even garden and weed, including microbiome? How much better is it to maybe I'll go and mentor a high school kid and decide his oscillation? Or how much better is it to go for a walk or go for a workout or to go do a cold plunge or a sauna? Or how much better is to do that than you know what? I'm going to sit here, get incredibly frustrated, right? Start to have a dialogue with ChatGPT, come up with a way, creative ideas of how to even unscrew and break apart the printer and be convinced. Before you know it, I'm going to start defining my own skills and worth by ability to fix the printer. And then I'll come to Tom and to all you guys, I got it to fucking work. And they'll be like, what a fucking lunatic. All that time, I could have just bought a new one. And it's
that pleasure of the win. Sometimes maybe it's a game.
But do you not see that that's where someone is lost? There's no VX. Why wouldn't there be a more worthy win that deserves my mind share and time that actually can benefit me and so many other more people than this printer?
Okay. I found it to actually be something that I would incorporate in my routine as the absurd thing that I would do, but I have to time it. And if I don't win or if it doesn't come through, it's okay. But it's just something. I would say.
But there's a nuance where if you define it too much, you're not quite picking up on the subtleties of these hidden connections and assumptions. Like I need the absurd things. I need, like you're defining so much of you and your brand and your this and your health to those things. And it's not true. It's subtle, but it starts to become a little too important for something so stupid. Like my family joked because it's like many places didn't have Wi-Fi, which is how I got into this, because they show these ads for this family, this whatever the harbor, whatever thing. And so my daughter, she constantly puts in our family chat, dad's taking care of the other family. Right. And I was like, no, but the girl's like shivering, the mom, like the dad, like abused them. And Olivia's like, dad's busy taking care of the other family. Like, but it's a joke. So like, we're able to make fun of it. And see, there's a part where you have the power to allow others to make fun of your frivolous shit. You have the same power to make it difficult for them to make fun of your frivolous shit. And that's what's called a RAP, a red arrow behavior. Right?
Yeah.
I feel like this is connected to ego as well. So if you do not have ego, then it's easier. Wow, just to make jokes.
So it's interesting because like when you say if you don't have ego, everyone has ego, right? You have to realize if you don't have ego, you'd be dead, right? It's almost like saying if you don't have an immune system, you'd be fine, like you don't get cancer. No, everyone has. But it's fascinating, even talking to Richie Weiwei, like the reason why they were able to learn the code so fast and build with AI was because they didn't have as much ego. We have amazing engineers from the past, and I say from the past because they're not engineers anymore. They're actually quickly becoming dinosaurs because they were fighting the whole way through. My code's better than the AI code. That's sloppy. I like to do it this way. But the technology was taking over so fast, and I know in their own heads, they could see the trajectory of where it's going. And rather than embracing it quickly, they fought it. And some of them are still fighting. And now I've met some of our employees who were former employees who were some of our best engineers. They deliberately tell me, I don't call myself an engineer anymore. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why are you being such a loser? Like get over this thing and start embracing it. Like you have more knowledge. And so, yes, ego, right? And to me, when I think of that, when you don't have worthy missions that you're drafting and going after, working on, you don't have that faith and belief, like something else takes over. And you can say it's ego. It's almost like, you know what? I'm going to go spend my time picking fights. I'm fucking offended by everyone, right? And everyone, you can just spend time either picking fights and getting offended by everyone, spending time mental spiraling and labeling I'm being vulnerable, so I don't want to do that. You create your own head cases, you create your own conflict, your issues, and then you go and say, you know what? At least I'm gonna make lunch fucking right. I'm like, Jesus, like you're worse than the high school kid by a factor of 10. Right? So that's where we get to very fast. And there's a guy I shared with some of you guys, this really smart guy I know. He written a white paper. He's, I think, developing it further about kind of the end of humanity, right? How the productivity and value of humans are pointing towards zero. So AI, robotics, quantum computing, and everything, fusion, everything will take over. And so like the value of a human being is going to zero. And I was explaining to our team, yeah, the old human is. The new human is not. And so like, that's the shift. So part of the march is getting the new human skills place, like fast. And the trends are moving fast. So you can be just like one of our older 250 engineers. You know what? I do it better, I do it well, or you can watch the trends jump on board and just rep and press and go. So. Other questions or?
I have a lot.
Okay.
I'm trying to understand how I can apply this, like what you showed to my life. And there are a couple of things that came out. So I heard you and Megan having stack things that you already do for your health. And when you said apples and pecans, I was like, oh, okay, I immediately see the health benefits of those. Doing strength training at the same time, like I can see the the value of all that. And then I often compare any kind of growth to strength training because I never want to do it in the moment. But then afterwards, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so much stronger. It was worth the walking funny for, 5 days. What I'm noticing in my VX group is, first of all, I got started. And second of all, when people misunderstand or push back, I'm like, I get more clarity on what I want. And that kind of stokes this defiance with me in me. And I'm not a sports fan by any stretch, but I've gone through this phase where I've been watching Michael Jordan because there was a fury to him that really resonates with me, where especially if he was disrespected, he would just become even better. Um, and I hear some of that in what you're talking about. And then finally, this is more tactical. I noticed in your workouts, it's strength, strength, then dance, then Pilates. And I'm wondering if there's a progression to that because I'm trying to determine how to revamp my own physical.
So can I get my visceral reaction? I wrote here is your focus is wrong. Your focus, your weighting is wrong because the body goes to the mind to then go to your VX. Like versus your VX is just staying at the bottom. And it's subtle because I know in your head, I'm sure in your thoughts, you have, well, I got to do that to get to that, to get to that. And what people make the mistake of is because they think, well, I have to first earn this before I get this, right? A lot of people do that. I need to first get my promotion before I get this. And once I get this, I can do that. And so they don't actually have a plan, something they're going after. So strategy, that's when strategy is fragile and weak. And instead, it ends up building the building block to get to the next building block to then eventually get to some strategy. And so the weak strategy makes you just go on the process of just collecting little building blocks. And so it's just why I say the focus is wrong, the emphasis. And if you go and refine that, right? Like, I mean, the perfect example, I mean, I love young adults, like high school kids, because they have no skills and no experience in saying the savvier things. So they just say all the wrong things, which is great because it exposes and they have an honest conversation faster. That guy started by talking about how he's stuck and this and that. And most people try to then identify and go into being stuck, right? Like the average adult in that person's life will say, tell me why you feel stuck. And then they're like, no, you're not stuck. You're good. And they kind of like either soft pedal, like hug yourself, feel good, or like they try to fix being stuck. Versus if you notice, I skip being stuck and I say, let's assume we get past that, right? And you're on fire. You're not stuck. You're energized, motivated, great day. What happens? What does that look like? What do you do when you have the building blocks? What do you build with it? Like, what are you going to do? And his answer was kind of like nothing, pretty much, right? I mean, I heard pretty much nothing, but that's only because it's the first version. The first version. And maybe that nothing is the building block of building the VX. But see, that's different than focusing on being stuck. So then what time do you get up? What time do you go to sleep then? What's your first thing in the morning? Do you have breakfast? Maybe you can do some push-ups or you can like see how the emphasis can become that. And so you'll overcome maybe being stuck and you'll still fucking go nowhere. Like it's not enough, which is why people think sequentially, which by the way is very oddly industrial age. You're looking at it like an assembly line. I can't focus at the end of the assembly line until I get to the beginning part first. So it starts with the body. So I'm going to start with the first part of the assembly line. I'm like, but what are you trying to assemble? You're like, well, I can't even think about it until I get the first part. So I'm just going to obsess on the first part. So your focus, your VX becomes the first step in the assembly line. It won't work. And a lot of people then pursue more first blocks in the assembly line. I somehow now, and if that ends up turning you into a personal trainer or something in fitness, great. But that's still very different than the pursuit of just getting a little bit healthier, a little bit healthier, a little bit healthier to do what?
To be
Like-
alive. For me, it's to be alive. So
Yeah, but-
I
but-
heard the physical, the health and the nutrition as a very important component for my VX around.
But here's the interesting part. If you don't, this notion, if you don't have something meaningful you're pursuing, which is what some people call purpose, some people call a big goal, ambition, you can label it whatever you want. The human body actually dies. If it doesn't have something it wants to get done, it literally starts eroding. Like being healthy for vanity's sake is not enough. It will erode. And then you're like, so most people do that. Well, I need to get healthy first before I dream. That's not true. It's actually in the wrong sequence. The dream that you're pursuing and you're refining, and the more you believe it, is the very thing that will make you do the hard work to get help. That was the God, the faith. The faith is required to go do the hard work. Without the faith, saying, I'm just going to start with the hard work, it will not work. You will putter out. And then the notion of being alive, like I had this group at church, the pastors in this church, like it's been a year or maybe a couple of years. One of them is like still like, what do you do with this like pain and how do you get justice? And, like the whole conversation, can't sleep, lost feeling on one side of the arm and all the stuff. And they're asking like, what do you do with this? 958 days, I averaged probably 4.5 hours sleep every night and still worked, and many nights with no sleep. And so they were like, are you sleeping better? This and that. I was like, the opposite happened. So not yet, but I think there are nights I do more. But you know what? Days I sleep 4 hours now or less, I'm fucking on fire. Like my tolerance and ability, it's like, that's not been an excuse for non-performance. That's not been an excuse for like disengagement. Like, no, I can absolutely go into the scariest stuff, mine or someone else's or anything. That became almost a non-factor. I was like, I grew stronger. And I was like, you have too, is what I told the pastor. Stop telling yourself you're not. Like, and stop looking backwards to punish the people who did wrong to you. Like, what do you want to do? Because I was like, okay, so if they all fell apart and they got put in jail for what they did in the church, what do you want to do? Right? What's the perfect church you want to build? And no answer. And everything is still, well, the trauma, the healing, we haven't healed. I'm like, what I see, you've healed. You went from no income to everyone's getting paid as pastors too. What do you want to do? Let's go after this shit. And the lack of having that makes everything else not work. So that's why the focus, I say, the sequence matters. This high school kid getting unstuck ain't going to do shit. He'll find 10 other things to get him stuck. Make him not depressed on one topic, he'll find 10 other topics to get depressed on. So, Richard, you had something?
Yeah, my question was around routines.
Routines?
Yeah, like when I was working with like Greg and Vera, for example, and we found we found a lot of success on that. It was like easy to do it because there was accountability. Now, I'm doing like different projects, and it's more I'm driving it. I find it hard, like the routines. So I'm also like seeing like why that happened. Like I'll try it once, and I'll do it twice, 2 weeks. Especially when there's no momentum, it starts lagging, and then there's like a shame. So another example of that is like weight loss. So whatever it goes away, it's like fun.
Yes.
Keep on going to the gym, but once that stops, there's like that shame of I'm not able to do it. So how is that I need like an accountability partner always, which is kind of hard, but is that like how you would describe?
So to me, I think there's a misnomer in this, the accountability partner, right? And a lot of times, even in the past, the training partner kind of turned into what they call an accountability partner. Like, you're going to give me feedback, you're going to fix me, you're going to catch my mistakes. It's nobody's job. And that's part of also you can't ever check your judgment. You can't ever give your life strategy and say it's your job or someone else's job. They may choose to help or may not choose to help. If they do, that's awesome. But if they don't, it shouldn't change what you're doing. And this is the notion of, I think accountability I dislike in that front. Because what comes before accountability is that, no, full agency is that I don't need anyone and I don't need anything. I have everything in my own like power, and I'm going to keep training that. Like it's me in charge of me making this shit happen. So to me, the accountability, well, I don't have the team anymore, and because we're not having the meeting, I'm not being able to done. Drop all those excuses and realize that the belief part, the VX and everything is like it's like a visual. You have to be able to see like kind of like what you want and keep seeing it and keep making that belief. But what's gonna be even 10 times harder, and this is the whole notion of the routine, the setup. You need to be like incredibly intentional and experimental in the routine setup. And like I said, the routine setups will just realize always go into an exercise, nutrition, weight, this, that. Like, no, the mind's more important. The mind is literally like some 5x, 10x more important. So everything is literally just a ramp, an on-ramp into the mind stuff. So like if you choose to add something on, I don't know, some physical side, okay, show me the 5x version on the mind. Like with the apples and pecans, we're talking live stream and then visceral drafting. With the gym, we like continue this conversation. We use those things as breaks to then go deeper into the mind stuff. Like most of what people will say, well, when I'm at the gym, I need to pay attention, so I can't bring any papers or anything. Have you ever tried? I do all the time. And Megan would, in the beginning, yell at me and be like, it's so embarrassing. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I was like, this workout's important, but getting this stuff right is far more important. So I'm using this time to go and, have the sheet I can stare at. It could be, I don't know, at a spin class and put a sheet of paper in front of you on the ground and just see it. Like I was saying, like, when you go to weight training, you guys in the gym here, don't go when everyone else is going. Go at like 11 a.m. or 2 p.m. and nobody's there. Take a sheet that you're unable to unscramble, stick it on the mirror, and then either yourself or not work out and like you're glancing at it. Like you're trying to solve it. Like solve the mental puzzles in your life all the time. Like your mind is doing that no different than what AI is doing. Like AI is crunching data all the time, every day. Your mind is too. But like everything in the routine is literally a supporting element to your mind working. Not like, well, I got to first get that stuff to get the mind, and then you make it the focus to be about losing weight, eating healthy. It's like, do you know how many unhealthy people are fucking losers and useless in life, will never do anything useful? Like, and do you know how many unhealthy people are doing great things? Like, meaning that's not the change agent. You can do it both ways. I believe doing it healthy is far better. I believe in, and we're like living proof of it. Every aspect of people like you are like a health company. I was like, no, we're not. We're focused on like mission, on getting big things. And we know those things make a difference, but like, just like the 4-hour sleep is absolutely not the reason why today is going to be a bad day. Not for me. I've repped it enough to know that's a fucking excuse, right? So yeah, like make it about Richie. It's not about Greg and Weiwei. And like, we had this conversation yesterday. It's fascinating. We talked about main projects and side projects.
Yeah.
It's fascinating that main projects we're all fucking retarded on. Main projects, oh, well, I'll get in trouble. You come up with all kinds of made up rules and all kinds of stupid shit that you do in your head, stress and metrics and goals. Side projects, you're like brilliant. Like you're playful, experimental, trying stuff like, like main projects are like, I only do it during work hours. And side projects, it's like, how do you not see that? You need the side project mentality in the main project. Like you can clearly do it. Like, so look at what you're doing, kicking ass in the side project, right? Whatever that frivolous thing, Aaron, you're doing. Put it in the shit that matters, right? And start to map out the differences of your routines and how you work and your stories and narratives. And you'll see, wait a sec, how do I put side project, bad, kick-ass energy into the main project?
Because we ourselves put a lot like a limitation to the main project.
Yeah.
Side project is more like all free. You can make mistakes, it doesn't matter.
You know, the biggest insights Kathy's seen and other people, I mean, even Greg saw it, said, wait, all the limitations were you making them up.
Yeah.
And do you know how many, I mean, federal criminal case, do you know how many limitations we had? I fucking challenged every single one of them. And I still do. Because just because it was a limitation doesn't mean it can't be broken, figured out, right? And even if there's a limitation, I can work around the limitation. There is no fucking limitation. It's all, and I say this because it's not that there is none. It's that our mentality, we don't know how to draw the line of what is the actual limitation and what is the 10x made up limitation. And so we're just buried in limitation and don't even realize it's you doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Like I said, side projects, what the hell do you do so well? Right? Like the same limitations, if you applied your same shitty mindset and horrible, stupid version of yourself for the side project, you get the same outcome. Right? Stress, I don't like it, not passionate, not my idea, right? Oh my God, you know, and then I don't know how to do a VX, I don't even know how to start. And, you know, I'm being like, you know, I need an accountability partner. And I'm like, Jesus, right? Like the same shitty version of your show up in the side project.
I feel that then that's when it's really important to find like that story or that page that actually keeps you always engaged with that idea, commit with that idea. Like I don't like following like what you have said, like is I feel right now it's more like important of finding that 5% or making sure that I kind of like stick with that 5% that give me the sparkle. Instead of like trying to, well, I know the routines are important, but it's more like I don't see, for instance, myself with good routines, but not having the goal or the mindset of what I want to achieve.
So, I mean, you're good at math, right? At least good enough that 5% is 1/20th of 100%.
Yeah.
Right. So like, if you didn't have 1/20th of what you needed, right? And you had say like 15 out of 20, I think you would do well. Like, meaning the 5% will come as you also press even harder on getting the other 95%. Meaning when Megan put in the thing about evidence, you know, when you accomplish things, you're producing evidence. The problem with evidence for most people also is first, it gets old. Old evidence talked about over and over again has absolutely no impact. You need new evidence, right? You need bigger evidence. Evidence of success. It's like, Olivia, you got a promotion. So if they say, oh, they're going to re-promote you to VP, but like, I don't care about getting promoted to the same spot. You have to always move up. Like, you know, you're like, wow, you can lift this much weights. They're like, well, I did that before. You need higher evidence. This movement of constantly like, so new evidence matters, the recency. But you need evidence. And when you don't have evidence, how do you generate evidence? You need to put the right setup and you need to do the hard work. And then, despite even a high school kid making a shitty version of a VX, start, right? And then say, okay, if you had all the right stuff, what would it be? So let's assume you had the perfect routines, right? Then what would it be, right? Let's assume you actually got the evidence, right? Of whatever that 5% is. What does that look like? Put it down. And this is the part, it's a mental exercise. You can't act like, well, I can't think about that. No, of course you can think about it. And so there's a part where it's like the brain is no different than any other part. If it isn't used and isn't used right, it doesn't operate correctly. Like, and so, you know, that phrase of what you don't use, you lose. We're losing that part. We're losing that part of being able to, you know, wake up like, you know what I fucking want today? Or, you know, when this thing works, I want this to happen. We're losing that ability because we're not doing it.
So that will become like the core of what we have to come to try to achieve, like understanding what we would like to earn or like to win, like the goal.
So we're not fully there yet. I say fully there. We're refining this and refining this even more. And I was telling Greg and Weiwei coaching this week that, so it's everything about live stream and VD. And I was like, my thesis is there's a two-step nuance that's even more refined than this. So I had some notes. I couldn't finish the presentation, but like, I feel like, and it's going to be tested. So, but in the meantime, I think this was a lot of hopefully good insight. You might be able to figure it out. I'll love next week, Santi, for you to be like, you know what really worked for me? This made a difference, because that's how you find what works. Like, there was a part, I think, I put a lot of stuff. I mean, this is where like kind of, when it goes wrong, you freeze, you deflect, and you aren't able to navigate. So there's a lot of other stuff put in the parking lot, getting stuck. I put this from, Megan shared this in the Paul Graham thing. The two parts I liked was, the avoid distractions, like, the immediacy. The reason why routines never get invested in, it doesn't seem to pay off. It takes a while, right? It's too little. Like, compounding takes a while. So as a result, we can't commit aggressively and fully into things that will take time. So instead, the distraction is things that pay off right now, right? The other part I love is this whole like launch and iterate. Most good ideas only show up once you're building. To me, that's the same thing where I was telling Laura, like, she always comes up with plans but never hits send. This to me is a diagram that shows only when building do you figure out how to get on fire. Versus most people are like, well, let me try to come up with what would make me on fire. And so then let me backwards plan. And I'm like, no, you don't know. You got to get in the arena to figure this out. So I feel that's the part. There's like nuances in this in the new strategy. But yeah, I'd put this here with, I find almost all the biggest challenges in life is always that decision between short and long term. Long term is what we all don't invest enough in. And the best investment in long term is routine. So routine and literally you're micro engineering it aggressively, better and better. And in the routine, like I said, the mind part is a fraction. Sorry, the body part is a fraction of what the mind should be. Which is why I try to draw it in the size of the. I know that helps a little bit. I don't think it's bad that you don't have an answer, just that it's bad that you're not going after it and doing the reps.
No. I agree. That's so. For instance, I was looking like two scenarios, like here at work, in which I try to put the routines, but since I don't feel that that goal, or I don't have I don't stick to that idea on my mind, slowly the routines go away.
Yeah.
So then I ask myself okay, what that happens, and maybe with other projects other that I get more passionate. I see the difference is more I see myself the passion, I vision, even if I don't know how it goes.
But can I tell you, this is nuance where you're trying to force the connection too much, because they will eventually connect. The routines will make your goal and the evidence coming out and your belief stronger, but you're trying to connect it too early. It's you're saying I'm investing in the routines, it doesn't make a difference. I'm like, it'll make a difference once you get it better and better and better and make it more automatic. Because what it will do is it will increase the odds of you doing more of the right things. The notion of make better choices, make more, the routines will make you make the right long-term calls, compound. And so I look at those as almost separate. Don't stop the investment in the pursuit of routine just because you don't hit the goal. In fact, if you're not hitting it, I would go even more aggressive. I had this conversation last night with this church group. It's counterintuitive when bad things happen. Most people go into preserve mode, right? When our whole thing happened, everyone's go rest, see a psychiatrist, save money, preserve. And we did the exact opposite. The first thing we did was we literally increased our training protocol on body and mind. We mapped it. First thing COVID happened. The very first thing Megan and I did, first day in the office when COVID all shut down, was exactly that. We literally set up aggressively, even though we thought it only last 4 weeks. We literally moved spin bikes into the gym, laid out mats for yoga. We needed to set up. We just set up aggressively, knowing that the mental work was going to be that hard, that we needed to intentionally and deliberately set up all the things to help ramp into the mental toughness. It's the same thing we did Like we should have physically fallen apart for almost 3 years, and we got stronger actually. Like because, and only because we upped our training. It's so counterintuitive that we increased our training as opposed to decreasing. So the harder it gets, the first thing is you increase the training, not.
Yeah. So I just say, yeah. Yeah, it's a good reflection.
And then that will increase the chances of evidence showing up. When evidence shows up, you will start to believe in your goals, in the dreams and VX. When evidence doesn't show up, you're delusional. And the more you talk about it, others around you will treat you like you're a crazy, delusional person. And then that you create raps. People can't have a real conversation around you because they can't tell you, like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's never going to happen for you. You never. Why? Because I don't see any proof of it. And you know it, but I can't say that to you because you're acting like, you're working so hard at it. I'm like, no, you're not. If you're working hard at it, you'd work hard on the routine. Because then at some point, it's like, I look at a litmus test that even with my experience, I can look at someone and understand what they're doing consistently in the routine and say, it's just a matter of time before they're going to get that done. Or is everything else never going to fucking happen? And if it happens, it's going to be total dumb blind luck and they'll never repeat. So when you can get that feeling of just a matter of time, that's where you want to be. That comes from the setup and the routine. Just a matter of time. All right. I hope that was helpful. You guys, I'll see you in New York. Actually, I'm catching a train. So you guys are there tonight. I'll see you in New York. Richard, I'll see you when you come to the summit. We have a lot of cool stuff happening there. Lei, it was good seeing you. The Chinese folks. Too much Chinese food. 2 nights in a row for me. But yeah.
Yeah, that's we can continue the conversation like during lunch.
Yes.
I do find like that routine help me. I feel like routine really most help. Well, when I feel most helpful, it's like when it's getting difficulties, like even like when uncertainty, those routines are helpful. When you're really like on fire, so the routine it just comes naturally. Yeah. So, but even like for me, so Greg go away for a couple of days. I would find like in the morning I don't know what to do. I need someone to talk about those stuff. Then I feel the routine now. Even yesterday, I feel the routine actually helped me. I just sit there like do my visual drafts. It's more like if I had just 2 months ago, I won't do that. If the Greg's not here, I for to do that's more like my homework for Greg. Every morning I need to come up something to talk to Greg. Now it's just more like my.
To me, everyone thinks the hard work is the faith and the belief. It's the routine. And if the routine's right, you will do the hard work. Make it repeated to the point where it's so automatic, it's not harder. And then you have to up level it to make it harder. And so that's the thing that increases the odds of you winning, as in producing evidence that you can do big shit.
Yeah.
When that's not there, it's like a crapshoot. You might as well throw a dart and hope that it hits. It never usually hits. And the few times it doesn't even matter. I'll never do it again.
Yeah. I was thinking even how you and Megan go through those almost 1,000 days. That's because they don't know they would win for sure. There's so many uncertainties, but the routines there to help them healthily, mentally, all those stuff. I'm not saying those you have to do 7 days a week to get that kind win. But I feel like once you have a routine, when uncertainty hit, when the difficulty hit, at least you know what to do. Otherwise, you can paralyze to sit there do nothing.
I think Megan shared this in her thing with that. Even the is it Jalen or what's the guy from the Knicks? You practice and kind of so automatic that you just do it.
Yeah.
That's the part where that's what routine does. When it's hard and you're stuck. A lot of people say you're stuck. We don't know what to do. The hard routine is there and you do it. You just do it. There's not even a question, just do it. And you know that it takes hard work before you're gonna have a breakthrough. Like this notion of just it landing on your plate is such a delusional. It's like going and buying a lottery ticket a day and saying, one day I'll just win. Like, it's great if you do, just don't make that your life strategy. That's how most people are acting.
Yeah, totally. You made me think like, well, that's Charlie said that. So most of I saw the somewhere where like say most people give up the day before the big win.
Yes.
Yeah, that's because lack of routine. If you have routine, you will carry it there.
Yeah.
You'll carry it there. You will get the win. Because it's just that hard. You can easily give up even the day before the win. You never.
I had this great conversation with Kathy at lunch the other day, I think with them saying, look, I want something to be easy, right? There's nothing wrong with having an easy relationship, an easy project, easy win. I mean, I'm not opposed to easy wins at all. But what happens when you hope they'll be easy and it turn out not to be? Now that's what tests the mettle of who you are made of and what your routines and what happens then? Do you get shocked? Do you go quiet? Do you go startled? Do you start to look for, why God me? I need it. Or can you burn that off and then do the hard work? As in, I don't go into every day thinking hard mode, but I'm hoping it'd be great today. But when it gets hard, I can flip into hard mode so fast. That's a trained skill. That comes from my routines.
Yeah, let's go get
Okay, we'll get lunch. You guys have lunch too, or dinner or breakfast, wherever it is you guys are at. And I'll see you guys tonight in New York.